they're going to continue negotiating. They're going to talk about the enriched material and what to do with it, and as well as the Strait of Hormuz. And
in the memorandum of understanding, because there's no sense in going much further unless this is part of the memorandum of understanding, has Iran agreed to give up its nuclear material?
I don't really think, at least at this point, we have that.
Well, then how can there possibly be a deal? That has been a bright line from the president from the very beginning. Iran cannot have the nuclear material to enrich to a nuclear weapon. So if that is not in the memorandum of understanding, we understand Iran's, going to give up all that, and then we'll move to details later.
So when you start negotiating, there are some stances that both sides state, but what matters is their goals. Like the United States wants Iran not to have a nuclear weapon anytime, in future. But Iran wants to, normally that's how negotiating works. Iran wants to persuade the Americans, wants to give them assurances in every way, whether to halt nuclear enrichment for a while, because probably I can say that nuclear enrichment cycle is probably the most expensive thing that Iran possesses at this moment.
I got to tell you that that's the whole point of this. That's why President Trump went to war February 28th. If that's not agreed upon, and if Iran still thinks there's some wiggle room for negotiating, that is Iran buying time. That's not necessarily, that has been sort of the drop-dead reason for this.
Well, back in February 28, Iran had not strangled the Strait of Hormuz. The prices of fuel had not increased, so Iran is using that as a kind of weapon, is weaponizing the Strait of Hormuz. And things have changed, basically, compared to then.
What has changed?
Well, first of all, not everybody, many people expected that after a short period of conflict, there would be drastic changes inside Iran. In terms of regime change, many people thought that people would take to the streets and change the regime, but that didn't happen. And back in the time, nobody thought that Iran would really do this to the Strait of Hormuz. Well, we knew this from 2 decades ago, that Iranian hardline ideologists suggested that in case Iran was attacked, Iran could close the Strait of Hormuz, and if there was no security for us, there should be no security for anybody else. But back in the time, Iran had not taken the action, and they had not done this before. But now they have done it. There is a very limited passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz on account of the efforts by U.S. Navy forces. But that's how they're changing the deal.
I guess, look, I don't want to go to war. I really don't. And no, we are, I guess, in a conflict now. But this is a nation that they kidnapped our Americans back in 1979. That's a bad faith. They have lied to IAEA. I'll get it straight, about their nuclear development in the last 15, 20 years. They have gunned down their people in the streets on protest. They have dragged this out. They have gone after countries that are neutral in this. I don't see how a memorandum of understanding, unless Iran says absolutely no to a nuclear weapon, unless that's in the memorandum of understanding, how we can even begin to trust them that this is just not another stage to drag this out.
Mm-hmm. That's actually possible that this memorandum of understanding is not going to resolve all of the issues on the table.
That's the one issue, though, that matters. That's the one issue, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And at this moment, we should expect that there will be, some days, some 2 months of negotiations between the two sides, hoping that it can resolve any of the issues, but parts of the issues at least. But what the reality on the ground is that the campaign that started 104 days ago didn't achieve its targets. So probably the U.S. administration is thinking twice about that.
How is this profoundly different from the Obama 2015 agreement, do you think?
I'm not sure, because the things are very different now. After President Trump withdrew from the deal back in May 2018, Iran continued R&D on centrifuges. Back in the time, before that time, Iran was only using first generation of centrifuges. But then, after President Trump withdrew from the deal, Iran continued research and development, and basically the enrichment capabilities of Iran quadrupled, probably even more, because the new generation of centrifuges are much, much more capable. So the things are completely different nowadays compared to 2015, and it's even more challenging for President Trump.
Well, I haven't seen the agreement. The president says wait, Pakistan says wait, Iran says, I don't know what Iran's saying.
Yeah, they're saying also wait.
I don't say it, but I know Iran's been a liar. I'm profoundly suspicious, I must admit, so I hope I'm dead wrong on this. You know, I hope my suspicion is just me being suspicious and I just don't get it. But I don't see how, unless nuclear weapons is totally part of this memorandum of this understanding, we think that Iran is, like, within the next 60 days is suddenly going to decide, you know, no weapons. But we'll see. Maybe, hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, basically, there is a limited optimism that there will be a deal. There is still a chance that there will be another round of war.
Thank you, sir. Mohammad Reza Mousavi, thank you, sir. Coming up.
I was like, man, you must be smoking some really good crack. Because I think this company's going to fail.
Quite the contrary. Elon Musk and SpaceX are breaking records. So what is it about this company that is the talk of Wall Street? Plus, why is President Trump threatening to take federal control of Washington, D.C.? That when the record continues.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. So Nobella changed that.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit, total body transformation.
I decided to give Sonobello a try. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is our breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative that sculpts, tightens, and lifts your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside. And Lift EX is exclusively available at Sonobello. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever. Call to book your free consultation today.
The first time I experienced vertigo, the room was spinning, like I was in a clothes dryer. Then I started taking LipoBalance support. Its ingredients are clinically shown to help reduce dizziness and spinning. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's all-American customer service team is standing by.
Kibble. It's been the standard for decades, and it's failing our dogs. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete. It's gently air-dried, locking in the nutrients and the flavor dogs go wild for. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
Plenty of reason to cheer today if you are Elon Musk or a SpaceX employee with stock. SpaceX is now public. The company is valued at about $2 trillion. Elon Musk assumes a new title, the world's first trillionaire. The company's initial public offering set a record $135 per share, and today the stock opened at $150 a share. It closed at about $160 a share. So what is it about this company?
We want to be able to take anyone who wants to go to the moon, anyone who wants to go to Mars, or anyone in the solar system, and maybe beyond the solar system at some point. We want to be able to take you there. Not just a few astronauts. I mean you, literally you.
Partner at Kingsview Wealth Management, Scott Martin, joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And I suppose, I mean, I sort of looked up today. I thought, what's he doing with all his money? This, you know, now that he's a trillionaire. And I'm like, he doesn't even like have a house. He lives in a $50,000 something or other. He's a very modest man. He's been spending all his money, apparently, on this company. So tell me, is this a good stock investment?
Well, I think right now, Greta, the stock is pretty overvalued, if you ask me. I mean, there was a lot of hype about this. We've been anticipating this IPO for several months now, and it finally happened. And obviously, he has other companies like Tesla that are out there that are operating pretty well and already IPO'd for quite some time. So, look, if you're investing in SpaceX, I think there's a lot of great things about the company. There's a lot of very exciting things it's going to do for humanity and society as a whole. But if you look at it from a valuation basis as to how much money the company makes, which is just under about $20 billion, and then how much money they lose, Greta, on an average annual basis, which is just, I don't know, a few $billion. I think there's a reason to wait for this stock to come back into maybe a more reasonable realm, and then maybe take a bite of it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned about the about the stock. It almost seems like a patriot almost buys, or an explorer, an adventurer, someone who wants to be part of of moving on to another part of the universe, is the person who he would probably be smart to get some stock, or might enjoy getting some stock. But for the rest of us, it might be a little bit like buying Green Bay Packers shares, which I own, $200, and you get nothing but bragging rights.
Ouch. Well, that hurts. I'm a Vikings fan, tried and true. So, yes, you got me there. We didn't even have our own shares as part of the Vikings, so you got us as well. I think it's one thing to have the stock and say, look, we believe in innovation, we believe in entrepreneurship, and that's why we buy shares of the company. There's many companies out there that are similar like that. It's the funny thing to me, though, Greta, do a lot of people really want to go to space? I mean, do a lot of people want to check out Mars? Do a lot of people want to go to Venus? Do they want to play golf, say, on the moon, or have dinner there? I just don't know if that demand is really there. And that seems to be the whole kind of access point that SpaceX has, is not only do they have great internet, by the way, the Starlink stuff that they have in the company is very, very good. Some of the AI infrastructure built out that they have is very, very good. The software and services, but the actual travel in the outer atmosphere, I'm not so sure that's a big enough a deal for folks to all of a sudden buy the shares and then jump on board and say, go spend their spring break out of the atmosphere here.
Why did he do this now?
Well, he's been trying this for a while. Ironically, SpaceX was started in 2002, if you can believe it. So Elon Musk is one of those guys that always thinks about that next frontier. I think he always thinks about what somebody either says he can't do, or what somebody either says that the humans just can't do in general, that the society can't do or can't make. So I think it's one of those things that he put that up in his own mind and said, okay, we know that the limiting factor of things is, say, the Earth's atmosphere and kind of gravity and things like that, all the kind of physical things that we deal with. So I think he started to see that there was ways to maybe try to attempt this. And like I said, back in 2002, he kind of had this idea to eventually get people to space. And over the course of, gosh, I guess the last 24 years, he's built up this this kind of carry where now he's got people wanting to go to space with him.
Well, I've never met him. I mean, I'd like to. In fact, I'd love to interview him. But he's so much interested in adventure, and to me, he's sort of inspirational that way. Our space program seemed to be in a lull until all of a sudden he showed up on the scene, and now there seems to be a lot more interest in even NASA seems to have been inspired by Elon Musk. So I'm rooting for him on this.
I am too, and I think he's very inspirational. I mean, he's one of those guys, I think, Greta, that says things in a way where you kind of don't think of them that way, but it makes sense how they're said, and it is inspirational. It is a way to kind of look at things differently as far as humans in general, where it does take a different kind of beaten path to get there. And look at, so far, you look at Tesla, you look at things like Solar City, all the things he's done with driverless cars, look at the things he's done with batteries, and all the kind of innovations that he's made on his end that really were not talked about other than what he brought up on his own, are things that I think, again, inspires us all to kind of get behind him and hope that he can get us to space, as long as it's safe and as long as it's interesting and something that we want to do, given we already have visitors and aliens coming down here, as we see, and I'm kind of scared to go abroad as it is, so I don't know if I'll be the first one on the ship, but I guess I would try it.
Scott Martin, thank you.
See you, Greta.
President Trump is threatening to take over the nation's capital. Why? This Tuesday is the D.C. Democratic mayoral primary. Polls show City Council member Janice Lewis-George is leading. She is a Democratic socialist. She has been compared to New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani because of their mutual focus on socialist policies. President Trump was asked how he would feel if Lewis-George won.
Well, I wouldn't like it, and maybe we'd take back Washington, run it on the federal basis. We won't put up with it. We're not going to lose our businesses. By the way, Washington now is a safe, beautiful place.
Candidate Lewis-George responded to the president's comments.
The reality is that the people of D.C. vote for the mayor of D.C., and the president threatening home rule because he doesn't like how residents may vote, to me is an attack on democracy itself. I will work with anyone to the benefit of D.C. residents. That includes Trump, that includes his administration, and it even includes Republicans in Congress.
By the way, does a president have leverage over the District of Columbia? You decide, but note this. The federal government gives the D.C. government almost $9 billion a year. That's almost half of D.C.'s total budget. Note also, D.C. ranks among the higher tax jurisdictions when compared to all 50 states. If elected, and if candidate Louis George copies Mom Donnie, D.C. could maybe face an exodus like New York is facing. The D.C. mayoral primary is Tuesday. Coming up, millions and millions of foreigners are coming to America. That when the record continues.
Tonight's Newsmax lineup is brought to you by Crown Atlantic. Protect what matters most with fast, affordable life insurance. Visit lifeforless.com.
As a kid, I was desperate for the $300 pairs of sunglasses that I saw all the athletes in my life wear. But it was just not realistic for me to spend that kind of money on sunglasses, something that I would probably lose or break. And that was the genesis for starting Shady Rays. High-quality, polarized, performance sunglasses with lost and broken protection. If you'd like to try a pair completely risk-free, see why millions have switched to Shady Rays at shadyrays.com and shop our full collection.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
If they tell you I'm a traitor, it's the truth. I betrayed my country. Did I cause harm? Yes. I sacrificed people. I deserve my fate. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't hesitate.
It's BOGO time at Cabinets to Go, where you can stock up on style and save on a brand new kitchen. Because right now, when you buy one lower cabinet, you get the upper cabinet for free. Plus, our design experts can even help you plan every stage of your project, from idea to installation. Save on your next kitchen during the buy one, get one free sale now through June 23rd. Shop today in showrooms nationwide or online. Only at Cabinets to Go. Designed to wow.
Nobody wants to put a new roof over their head. It's too expensive. And if they can extend the life of that roof and get 5 more years or 10 more years, it's a no-brainer.
What RoofMax does is it helps people in that they don't have to spend that $15,000, $20,000 on a new roof. They can spend pennies on the dollar.
The RoofMax product was a small percentage of cost of replacing a roof.
Get your roof treated now, but pay later, with no payments for a full year.
The United States is being invaded by about 5 to 7 million foreigners. They're expected to come to the United States. Many are already here. Look what happened at 6 a.m. this morning in this Massachusetts neighborhood. If you love bagpipes, it's a great way to be awakened. But why are the Scots and all these other foreigners suddenly here in America? Well, you know why. The World Cup. And tonight is the first match in America. It begins in about 4 hours in Los Angeles. Team USA will play Paraguay. And if you're not a soccer fan, you might be wondering, why should you care? Well, consider this. The World Cup will likely generate $30 billion for the U.S. economy. To compare, the single Super Bowl game brings in about $1 billion, so the World Cup is 30 times more. Plus, several American cities are hosting the matches. Over the next 5 weeks, 11 cities across the country will host international teams and international fans. Republican candidate for the United States Senate in Minnesota and former NFL sideline reporter Michele Tafoya joins me once again. And have you come around to calling this football, soccer football, because your name is associated with the NFL? I still think of the NFL as football, but the rest of the world calls soccer football.
I know. Whenever I travel, I have to be mindful of that. For here in America, football to me is football, but this is the beautiful game. And this is a game, Greta, that I'm sure you remember just growing up. Everyone was saying soccer is going to take over the world. It is going to become the biggest sport. And for years and years and years, we've heard that. And it's making a big push. And you've got major names like Lionel Messi and Ronaldo, and that might be their final World Cup appearances. So it's exciting. People are really, when you see this game played at the highest level, which you will in this tournament, you may find a new appreciation for this sport. It is tremendously exciting, and we'll see it. Having it here at home makes it a little more intriguing, I think.
Well, I think it does too, because I think sports tend to be contagious. It's sort of like a virus. Like, I didn't have a profound amount of interest in soccer, but I'm paying a lot of attention to this. And you're talking about the older players. It's sort of fun. It'll be the last time that some of these players play. I'm even following the Knicks, of all things. I mean, I had no interest in the NBA, but, you know, everyone keeps talking about, a lot of people I work with. So sports tends to be contagious. So I think this is going to have a profound impact on, I mean, a lot of kids play soccer, but I think this is really going to make a big difference here in this country for the years coming.
I do too. I mean, we are seeing Major League Soccer grow and grow across the United States. It finally is starting to scratch that surface of the prominence that they want it to have. And some of the teams have associations with strong, even NFL and NBA cities. So this is an opportunity for all these kids, and my daughter's one of them, who play soccer in the United States, to watch the game played at an incredibly high level. I remember not really having as much of an interest in the game until I covered it at the London Olympics. I got to cover the U.S. women's team, and it was amazing. It had me on the edge of my seat. So I agree with you. Just like in the last Winter Games, Greta, suddenly everyone became curling fans because it was on so much and they started to understand it. They loved it. Now, that may only be once every 4 years, but it certainly makes a difference. And for this sport, as it continues to grow worldwide, this is going to be epic. It's bigger than ever, more teams than ever. It's going to be fantastic. I wish the United States had a better shot. I don't know if we'll see them deep into the matches.
You know, you mentioned curling. Of course, you and I are from the upper Midwest, so growing up curling, you and I both knew it. Wisconsin and Minnesota, they both, I mean, curling, we knew what curling was. But you know what, the one thing I've never been a fan of about soccer is that the game goes on and on and on. You don't get any points, which I like about the NBA. It's fast. You get a lot of points. But on the other hand, this is a sport that, you know, almost everybody can play. You know, like football in grade school and high school, it's only like a certain number of players can play on them. But, you know, there's so many leagues, and the entry level is so easy. You don't need a lot of equipment. You need a soccer ball.
You know, soccer ball and some proper shoes and some shin guards, and that's about it, and maybe a net. Although you don't even need a net. You see kids, you know, making up the rules in their yards. This tree and that tree, that's the goal. So it's certainly accessible. Like I said, I think the game is far more exciting at this level. I think people get used to seeing it sort of maybe at their kids' games or the high school games, which is great. And we all go out and we cheer for those kids really hard, and they're putting their best foot forward. Pun intended, maybe. But at this level, the execution, the footwork, the passing capabilities, it's just a different animal. And like any sport at the highest level, it is significantly more compelling to watch. So I think people are going to enjoy this. I almost said, Greta, get a kick out of this, and I really didn't mean to add that pun. I think people are going to enjoy it. And I think this will do something to grow the game here domestically.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I looked at the odds today for the U.S. I'm still rooting for the U.S., of course, but you know, I mean, we're not favored going into this.
Not even a little bit. You know, you're looking at Argentina, you're looking at England, you're looking at some of the usual powers. So we can cheer hard for the U.S. and who knows? Who knows? Stranger things have happened. We all remember the Miracle on Ice. But it seems like a long shot. But in the meantime, I hope everybody has fun, and then pick your backup team. You know, pick a team that you just decide you want to cheer for. And a lot of the stories of individuals and coaches are going to be told along the way. You're going to be introduced to cities all over America and Canada and Mexico as you watch these games play out. It's just it's a festival atmosphere, and it goes all the way through July 19th.
It's long. Anyway, Michele Tafoya, as always, thank you very much.
Thanks, Greta.
Well, you know the usual excuses for getting out of school. I had a lot of them myself. Dog ate the homework, internet was not working, alarm did not go off. Here's a new one. The doors of the school were glued shut. During finals week, that's what happened at a high school in San Diego, and now police are looking for the scoundrel who glued the doors shut. Nearly 200 doors at Patrick Henry High School were glued shut. Police say the suspect arrived at the school around 1 a.m. and put a sticky substance on the door locks. The suspect is described as a male of unknown age wearing a sweatshirt. Police did not say whether the suspect is a student, but whoever did it, student or not, is going to be in a heap of trouble when he gets caught because the damage to the doors is estimated to be about $70,000. Coming up in California, if California Governor Gavin Newsom decides to run for president in 2028, he may have already have his running mate. Find out who. That when the record continues.
He could tell me everything about my life, so he was looking for me for a long time.
Children are being manipulated and blackmailed online. The results can be deadly. Human trafficking is happening right here in America. Watch Stolen Lives, America's human trafficking crisis.
There's no way a mouthwash can prevent bad breath for 12 hours.
You're right, Bill. Mouthwash can't, but this is dentist-developed Smart Mouth Activated Mouthwash.
Activated?
Yeah, if your mouthwash isn't activated, it's not Smart Mouth. See, this plus this activate for 12 hours of bad breath prevention, guaranteed. Try it. You won't have bad breath in the morning. Good night, Bill.
Get dentist-developed Smart Mouth today. It's the smarter mouthwash, available at these fine retailers.
People always ask, why Patriot Gold Group? With over 10,000 clients to date and over $1 billion in transactions, not a single complaint on the Better Business Bureau. Consumer Affairs top rated for 9 years in a row. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. The only company nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the no fee for life IRA. Gold is up 80% in the last 28 months, 275% since Lehman Brothers collapsed. We are patriots protecting patriots. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Call now, 888-528-4290.
250 years ago, a nation was forged by grit, by courage, by freedom. Today, we raise a glass to that same spirit. 4547 Straight Bourbon Whiskey, the 250th Anniversary Edition. Bold, independent, unmistakably American. Toast to independence this year. Built by patriots, for patriots. Order yours today.
Thanks to Jointivia, I'm back in the swing of things. Wait, $70 for a refill?
You gotta try Single Care. Just look up your prescription, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked, and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, You don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Guess who is going to testify about Jeffrey Epstein? The House Oversight Committee has finally, after many requests by Professor Alan Dershowitz, even on this show, written the professor and said he can testify. Several times on this show, if you watch, you know this because he's been on here so often, Dershowitz says he wants to testify in the open about his former client, who's Jeffrey Epstein. The other night, I told Dershowitz, when the committee still hadn't called him, that I would text Chairman James Comer, I had his cell phone number, and make sure that he knows Dershowitz wants to testify about his old client, Epstein. A short time ago, Dershowitz received a letter from Chairman Comer, which says, in part, quote, "You recently made statements to the press in which you expressed your willingness to appear to testify about everything in a videotaped under oath and open to the public interview. Accordingly, we request your testimony at an in-person videotaped transcribed interview on July 9, 2026 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time in Washington, D.C., end quote. Well, that's not exactly what Dershowitz asked for, and I confirmed this a few hours ago because I called him and asked him. Dershowitz doesn't want to testify behind closed doors with congressional staffers. He wants to testify live, not videotaped, live, in open, not behind closed doors, and he wants members of Congress asking him the questions and not staff. It's transparency. So what might this testimony entail?
I have eyewitness testimony about the deal that was made, how it was made, why it was made. I have testimony about some of the alleged survivors and victims.
On Wednesday, before the House Oversight Committee, Microsoft billionaire Bill Gates testified behind closed doors about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. That same day, an excerpt was released from a new book from New York Times reporters Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. The headline of the excerpt is titled, "Inside the White House Freakout Over the Epstein Files." The excerpt says Vice President J.D. Vance called the Epstein fallout, quote, "a huge problem," end quote. In response to this report, a White House spokeswoman told Axios that President Trump is exonerated on anything relating to Jeffrey Epstein. Following all of this, one of Trump's former allies, who is now a Trump critic, said this.
They should be considered traitors. They're traitors. The ones that refuse to release the Epstein files, want to cover up for pedophiles and rapists and all sorts of disgusting things in these files. Those are the traitors to the American people, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
I mean, this report basically says it was the president who didn't want anything released. Are you saying that applies to the president himself?
I'm saying exactly that.
Former federal prosecutor Joe Moreno joins me. Joe, Alan Dershowitz was Epstein's lawyer. He says he has a lot of relevant information. And he, unlike everybody else who's getting dragged to the hill, he has volunteered a number of times on this show. And of course, as you notice, I said I texted Chairman Comer. But he wants to testify in open, not behind closed doors. And he wants it live, not videotaped. Anybody can record it who wants. And he wants to answer questions from Congress themselves, members of Congress, rather than staffers. Any problem with that?
No, it's a smart move. I mean, if he were to testify behind closed doors, anything he says will get leaked and will get misrepresented. So I completely understand why he wants to do it in wide open, not have any misrepresentations about what he has said, and kind of look eye to eye with his questioners. Then when it comes to those questioners, as we've talked about before, staffers who ask questions behind closed doors are usually a lot more skilled than the members of Congress themselves.
But he's not trying to, he's not afraid of any questions. I mean, he's not afraid that a staffer is going to ask him a better question than a member of Congress. He just wants all the cards on the table.
Well, I think, you know what, though? I agree, and I think that if he's a lot smarter than these members of Congress and the staffers.
I think the members of Congress are afraid of him.
Oh, I think so, too. I think he kind of called their bluff here. I think that they probably would have much preferred he do it before the staffers and behind closed doors, so then they can manipulate what actually happened. I think their little 5-minute stunts where they kind of preen to the cameras and kind of make speeches and don't really ask questions is going to backfire. So good for Professor Dershowitz. This is the right move.
One of the things he's concerned about, and he's not here to represent, and I hope I get this right, is that there is someone in this whole volume of files that has accused him of bad behavior. And that person's name, presumably a woman, has been blacked out, redacted, so he doesn't know who it is. His name, and he's been exonerated, but no one has said, and since then it's been said that, that he didn't do anything wrong, and he wants to publicly say to the cameras, he wants to answer questions about it. But he got totally trashed by whoever this person is, but he says, to be fair, let's have her name because she lied about me, he says.
I know this is where you and I disagree a little bit, because I come at this from a prosecutor's view. And so I say, if something can be charged, you shine a light on it and you charge it. If not, you keep it hidden away, right?
But they didn't. But once they released it, once I got that too, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But once you make a decision to release it, or you have a court order or something else, wouldn't it be fair? I mean, to think of the people who have done nothing wrong and they get maligned by saying a big black line says that you did this, and you look at the transcript and think, oh, what did so and so do?
This is why we don't do this, because it's not fair to people who have accusations made against them. And then you'll have people upset because if you leave victims' names unredacted, now you're putting them out in public. So you can't win, right?
Well,
either way, either.
Right. They can't win. I get that. But once you get into the problem where, Congress passed this law and says you've got to produce this, then what do you do?
Well, there are carve-outs for certain categories, and one of them is graphic depictions. One of them is victims.
How do you decide how do you decide victims? Is someone a victim who lies? If let's say that I lied about you and said that you did terrible things, and then am I a victim even though I lied?
You're a purported victim. I guess you're claiming to be.
But why should I be? I mean, I feel terrible for these women and girls who suffer. That's terrible. But this whole thing has just been so clumsy how it's been handled. It's hurt so many people.
But this is what, even if it was the best intentions, right, to kind of bring all this out in the open, this is why we don't do these sorts of things, because you can't win. There's always going to be either too much or too little released. It's always going to take too long. It's always going to be imperfect. Someone's always going to have a conspiracy theory about there's still stuff hidden away, and it's a never-ending saga.
Then the irony of Congress, who voted for this law to put sunshine on, to bring it all out, is they want to put Alan Dershowitz in a cubbyhole with an examination. They don't want to talk to him in public, and he wants to talk in public.
But that clip you showed, by the way, too, that's grotesque. For someone to go out there and make allegations about rape and about all kinds of things against anyone, the president or anyone else, without evidence, and say that it's deep in the files of these so-called conspiracy, kind of covered-up files, is so irresponsible.
It's also defamation. If someone has lied about someone and accused someone of a crime, it's called defamation.
It's grotesque.
Too.
It's grotesque.
Well, it's also a civil wrong.
Yeah, and anyone, especially a public figure,
look at the redaction of this. Look at this. How do you fight against that? If you're, it's like we don't even know who's there, and the Justice Department says that's disclosure according to the law.
Let's hope this is a one-time thing. We learn from our mistakes, and we, do a better job at bringing prosecutions timely, which President Trump can say. He brought the prosecutions against Epstein and Maxwell.
But that's even another thing. If they conclude from this committee that it was that all these people should have been prosecuted and all these people got away with doing terrible things, what about those prosecutors who had the files sitting in their office for the last 15 years and did nothing? None of them has even, I'd like to talk to those prosecutors and say, why didn't you do something?
What about 8 years of the Obama-led Justice Department who didn't do anything?
I know all of them.
If we're going to 4 years under President Biden who didn't release these files. So now to say to Donald Trump, you're the bad guy, he prosecuted Epstein, he prosecuted Maxwell, and he's released the files. And so I feel like I would punch back hard on these allegations.
I think we're now in the position where everything has to be, everything has to come out. No redactions, no nothing. And I'm sorry it hurts people, but I don't know how to get out of it.
You're probably right. We're probably in too deep now.
We're in too deep. Joe Moreno, thank you. Nice to see you. His former first son, Hunter Biden, going to run for office, and a very high office. Here's what he told California Governor Gavin Newsom, who may be running for president in 2028.
Come on, Hunter. What's going on?
No.
You got more buzz out there than you got the President of the United States, Donald Trump, talking about your candidacy for president
I had to
of the
give
United States.
I had to give you a break for just one day at least.
But
here's the deal. Here's the deal. I'll run, but only as your VP, because the truth of the matter is the vice president's residence is a lot cooler. It's a lot easier job too.
Coming up, one of the most famous golfers was reportedly kicked out of the golf club in the middle of his round. So what happened? That when the record continues.
If you think your out-of-warranty car will last forever, you need to wake up. Are you okay with spending thousands on car repairs? That cuts into grocery money, vacation funds, you name it. When an unexpected breakdown happens, that covered repair will get paid for you. The right plan for me is a CarShield plan, and that goes for you too.
Car repair prices are only getting more expensive. With a CarShield plan, you can protect up to 5,000 parts and systems and drive worry-free with America's most trusted auto protection. There are no long-term contracts, and CarShield has plans for every budget. Best of all, the rate you get today is your rate for as long as you cover your car.
Over the years, CarShield has saved our customers thousands of dollars, which allows us to keep our customers' vehicles safe and keep them moving down the road.
Like I say, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and CarShield's been showing up for their customers for over 20 years. Not only can they help save you thousands on repairs, but their additional benefits can save you even more, like 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, and rental car options. That's why I don't drive without CarShield.
CarShield gives our family peace of mind. It gives us comfort knowing that we're not going to be hit with major car expenses, and it saved me over $13,000.
When a breakdown happens, CarShield can help you find a repair shop in your area, pay the shop directly, and get you on your way. Saving money is as easy as call, drive, save.
Okay, America, here's your chance to outsmart the universe and call CarShield before that expensive breakdown happens. Life's a marathon, not a sprint. Make sure you cross the finish line. Pick up that phone and see how much money CarShield can help you save.
CarShield has saved drivers more than $1 billion in car repairs. How much could they save you? Find out today when you call and get your free quote. Call 800-471-1654. 800-471-1654. 800-471-1654.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Phil Mickelson, a six-time major champion golfer, has been kicked out of a San Diego golf club over allegations he made unwanted physical contact with a female employee. This report is according to Golf Digest. The outlet says the woman rejected Mickelson's alleged advances. The employee then reported the incident to her supervisor. The report goes on to say that the golf club immediately investigated, located Mickelson mid-golf round, and instructed him to leave. The woman's identity has not been made public. Golf Digest says it verified the story with the woman employee, but is withholding her name to protect her privacy. A spokesperson for Mickelson says he has resigned from the club. A defamation attorney for Mickelson told Golf Digest that he has been retained as defamation counsel. And earlier this year, Mickelson said that he was stepping away from professional golf to attend to a private family health matter. And someone's parade is about to be rained on. This Sunday, big storms are in the forecast, including right here in our nation's capital. And the UFC match is to happen Sunday night on the White House lawn. 125,000 guests are expected to be outside watching this weekend. And so meteorologist Julie Fife has the latest on this weekend's forecast. Julia?
Hey, Greta, I'm sorry to deliver the bad news. Yes, there is a severe threat as we head into Sunday. First round moving through D.C. right now. Ahead of a cold front, we've got strong to severe storms. D.C. currently under that severe thunderstorm watch through this evening. You can see those showers and thunderstorms moving through the area. Those orange polygons, those are severe thunderstorm warnings, meaning those severe thunderstorms are happening now. Up to 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts have been reported. And this is the fuel. We've got that heat advisory in place all along the eastern seaboard from Maine all the way down into South Carolina. Feels like temperatures are in the triple digits. Anytime you have all that heat, that's that instability for those strong to severe storms. So currently under that level 2 out of 5 risk. You can see those showers and thunderstorms will move through the evening. And then as we head into Saturday, it's going to be a great day. Get outside and enjoy it. That cold front really not going to affect our temperatures, but it will lower the humidity in D.C., dry conditions. And then I'm here to deliver the bad news. I'm so sorry. As we head into Sunday afternoon, that's when we're going to start to see more storms develop right over D.C. around 4 o'clock. The good news is with the latest update, it does look to be speeding up. So hopefully we'll get that main line out of the way, just be dealing with lingering showers during the fight. But again, it is looking to be a soggy time as we head into the evening on Sunday. And just stay weather aware. A level 2 out of 5 risk has been issued for D.C. for Sunday. That does mean gusty winds. Could see some large hail. Also some heavy downpours with that main line that's expected to move through the afternoon. So here's the official forecast for your fight on Sunday. So it kicks off at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Temperatures will be at 80 degrees. With all that moisture in the atmosphere, it is going to be feeling a little bit sticky. Again, that main line has started to speed up, so I do think we're just going to be dealing with lingering showers during the fight, and then by the time we're wrapping things up, it'll be around 77 degrees. So again, we're going to continue to keep an eye on the forecast. Hopefully it'll speed up and we're just dealing with some of those showers, but it's not a great forecast, Greta.
Julia, I got to say that they're sticky. I think those people are going to look like drowned rats. I mean, it's that fight on the White House lawn is outdoors, so it's more than sticky. They're going to look pretty wet. Anyway,
it's going to be poncho fest.
Yeah. Think of the fighters. Meteorologist Julia Fipe, thank you.
Thank you, Greta.
Wednesday was Game 4 of the NBA Finals. It had New Yorkers glued to their TV screens. Fans watched an extraordinary game. The Knicks came back from a 29-point deficit to beat the Spurs. But here is something I bet you never even thought about. Water. The game even affected New York City's water. The city's water department posted on X, and I'm reading it exactly as they posted it. As the Knicks rallied with a game-winning two-pointer, New Yorkers had their number one at the final whistle, and for the next 7 minutes, New York City saw a water use spike equal to 368,697 flushes, end quote. Tomorrow's Game 5 of the Finals in San Antonio. New York is leading the series 3-1. This means the Knicks are 1 game away from winning the championship. I'm sure New Yorkers are holding their breath. By the way, I'll skip the obvious joke about holding. Coming up, how on earth did a goat get on top of that car? And it involved police? That when the record continues.
I'm John Glasgow, and whether the story is right here in New York City in a courthouse or at the border wall in Arizona, we're going to be boots on the ground to bring you all the facts to make sure that you get the story straight, because that's what's important to us right here at Newsmax.
Does it ever feel like society is going up in flames, yet people don't have the strength to care? There's a hidden reason for that, and it may surprise you. Testosterone levels in American men are at an historic low, and it's testosterone that gives men the energy to be men. Support your own natural testosterone production with Chalk. Go to chalk.com/TV1 for your $17.76 discount. Chalk's All-American customer service team is standing by.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling downstairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stair Lifts has the solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, Ride with an Acorn stair lift, the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stair Lifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn stair lift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs anymore.
And our Acorn stair lift was very affordable.
Our Acorn stair lift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn stair lift has a padded seat and backrest for maximum comfort. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn stair lift if there is something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
I am king of my castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stair lift directly to the staircase. In most cases, in 2 hours or less. There's no need for special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn stair lift.
Don't risk a serious fall going down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little it cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn Stair Lifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with Acorn Stair Lifts.
Call 1-800-908-4077 right now for your free information kit or visit our website today. That number again is 1-800-908-4077. Call now.
We can all agree, steak is for dads. All types of dads. Grill dads, cast iron dads, charcoal dads, tongue snapping dads. United by their love of steak. Whatever kind of dad he is, the perfect gift is waiting at Omaha Steaks. His gift could even include 8 free burgers made from premium-aged American beef. Find out how at omahasteaks.com. Here's to all the dads. They've earned this.
Before you agree, you should understand how dangerous this is.
What's the mission?
You're hunting a predator. It's the kill shot. It comes for you.
I wouldn't miss it for anything.
Whatever it takes, understand?
On this show, we've shown you how the New York police help not just humans, but creatures of all sizes, including we showed you 11 ducklings. Well, this week we have some new video. First, in Ohio, the Butler County Sheriff's Office got a report about suspicious trespassers in a backyard. When police arrived, they found a herd of 8 goats. Officers successfully led 7 of the goats back home, but one stubborn goat escaped. He tried to make a run for it by jumping on this SUV. Then he ran into the woods, and he is still on the loose. Police have issued a bolo. Be on the lookout for the goat. They say he's not dangerous, but he may be armed with an attitude. And now to Massachusetts. Police in Boston had to stop traffic on a major road. Why? Because a family of geese began crossing the busy street. I don't think they look both ways. Luckily, this officer was there to help. He stopped cars and a bus to help the geese cross the street and get to the other side. And before we go, we have a viewer video. It involves a sing-along. Oh, I love that. That was from our viewer, Michael Huffman. Thanks for watching, Michael. And I love the video. And if you have any good pet videos, send them over. The email address is on your screen. It is emailgreta@newsmax.com. We may play your video right here or show it. And don't forget, I have a new podcast called Greta Wire. You'll like it. It's different. You can subscribe now. It's free on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at newsmax.com/listen. Thank you for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take, is next. Stay with Newsmax. Have a great weekend.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.